Hey guys, Brandy here in the kitchen, and I'm taking the evening to get a batch of, these are nothing but raw packed tomatoes. These are quarts, so 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, 1 teaspoon of salt. You can use citric acid, I don't remember what that, I just use lemon juice. I'm not sure what that conversion is. And I'm actually pressure canning those because it's more hands off and it's quicker. You can totally water bath them, but it's super easy. You want to leave about an inch of head space. You do debubble, and these will process in my pressure canner for 25 minutes. And they're just going to preserve the tomatoes with a very concentrated tomato juice. I did not add any water. This is its own juice, and so that's how you get the most concentrated flavor for tomatoes. You can do the where you pour over hot water, raw pack, different things like that, but I like to do this one. You just have to process it a little bit longer. Another reason why I'm doing the pressure canner, because it's only 25 minutes. I have lots of skins that I think I'm actually going to put these in the food dehydrator, and then I'm going to take my 10 pans that I have a table full of tomatoes that are ready to go. I'm going to core them. I'm going to put them in these pans, single layer. I put them in my oven at 350 for somewhere between 30, depending on the size of the tomatoes, somewhere between 30 and 40 minutes. I just leave them alone overnight. I dress them the next day and I take my skins off, and then I'll can another one. So this is just kind of how I'm doing it. It makes it doable, and yeah, so this is part of the Every Bit Counts challenge, and I wanted, maybe you hadn't thought about doing it like this. I much prefer the oven method for getting your skins off than boiling it and blistering it on the stove and then putting it in a cold water bath to stop the cooking process. This is so much better in my opinion. It's just my opinion, but I love it, and it may be the only way I do it. And I will say I do like the deeper, heavier, dutier pans. The first set I got were kind of cheap. They didn't last but for a couple, I think 2 or 3 batches, they started leaking. So maybe invest, and then I just wash these out and reuse them. So I'm gonna get this going, and I'm gonna lay these skins out. I think I'm gonna go ahead and crank up the food dehydrator. And so, because what you do is once these are totally dried out in your food dehydrator, you just put them in your blender, or if you have like a little food processor or something, and you powder it, and then you can use that powder in place of tomato paste, and so it's really helpful. Okay guys, you can see in my pans here that how those tomatoes were blistered and the skins just slip off, and how I had prepped my jars with 2 tablespoons of lemon juice to 1 teaspoon of salt for each quart. All I am doing is taking these blistered skins off. I cut my tomatoes in half, and I leave an inch of head space. In my jar, you can see I'm debubbling, and then I wipe it down with vinegar, put on a new band and lid. These are actually new jars. I'm using wide mouth because in my Nesco Smart Electric Canner, in the handbook it says for quart size jars you're supposed to use wide mouth jars. I have some followers who have this canner or the Carry canner, which is the same one, and they say theirs works fine with the other. I can only tell you what my book says, and I do know that it seems like there was the earlier models said something different. So I'm just telling you why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm also, if you're thinking you don't need a whole inch of headspace, the reason I'm leaving an inch of headspace is because when I consulted my ball canning book and the USDA for home preservation, if you're doing tomatoes without the raw pack, I'm doing the raw pack method here, and I am not adding any hot water to it. I'm allowing this to just be canned in its own juice outside of the lemon juice that I added and the salt. And so for that, it does recommend 1 inch of headspace. Hey guys, Wendy here. It's the next morning. And I just left these in like I normally do. Let's take a look and see what we got. Now these were just plain tomato halves in their own juice. And that's what it looks like. And I'm gonna come set them over here. Let them rest. Okay, so let me grab this last one out of the canner. Oops. This stuff is never easy to do one-handed. Especially when you're right-handed. I don't know why. I guess because I don't know what it's like to be left-handed. It's probably the same. Alright, so that is 4 more jars of our tomatoes to go on our shelf. I'm going to let them rest probably till this evening, and then I'll take my bands off, label, wash off, put it on the shelf. But they all sealed, and that's just tomatoes. And you could just use that in so many different things, and you don't have to buy store tomatoes. And so let me show you how many more tomatoes I have. So these are the latest batch that I need to address. I also have peppers, and we got shocked with some of our banana peppers ended up being hot peppers. And the other day my son was here on his lunch break, and he picked one up because he's just so used to, we've been eating them. And he likes hot stuff, but he was not expecting hot stuff. And I said, well, it must be a fluke, until yesterday. Randy picked one up, and no, they're pretty darn hot. And I don't know which ones they are because they were all mixed up. I've got 2. I still need to open up my cucumbers over there and seed save out of those. So now let's go check on the dehydrator. Okay, so this one's been going for about 10 hours. So let's see, we're gonna open it up. And what I have in here is I have elderberries that had been in the freezer from last year. Trying to make room. And our tomato skins. They're not quite done. They still have about 3 hours, so we'll check on them later. But that's my updates for right now on the Every Bit Counts challenge.